in 1 minute. So and here's the stream. Perfect. So for those who don't know, um, all the Swedes in the audience very much do know that I do a monthly event, and now we've got the live stream embedded on the Stockholm Tech website. Great. So we'll have a bunch of Swedish friends watching remotely. We've been doing every month for 8 years an event called the Stockholm Tech Meetup. And I want to welcome you all to the Stockholm Tech Meetup, although clearly we're not in Stockholm due to some crazy virus that's going around the world that you may have heard of called COVID. And that's very unfortunate. It means we can't join together in Stockholm as we've done every month for 8 years, where we meet at the Hilton Hotel Auditorium, which it's only got 300 seats, and we pack about 500 people in there. And the hotel very kindly doesn't tell the fire department, and the fire department kindly doesn't come and arrest me. And we, and this event, now that it's been going on for so long, so many fantastic startups raised money on stage, and nearly every decent investor in Europe has been on stage, and people every month fly in from Finland, all around the Nordics, to be on stage, and London as well. And I desperately miss doing it. I fly there myself every month from Thailand to Stockholm just to do that event. And but now we're doing a very special version because we cannot do it on the ground in Stockholm at the Hilton Auditorium. We're doing it today in Clubhouse here in this room. And thank you for joining us. And because we are doing it virtually, it gives us the opportunity to bring in investors who normally might not fly to Stockholm and join us on stage. So that's why last month we did it with Asian investors, which was a lot of fun. And it's why this month we're doing it around Africa. And I'm so excited that we can do this. We're just taking advantage of the fact that, we can go much broader geographically, virtually, through to the power of Clubhouse. And I want to credit Mabwana for sort of giving me the idea, actually, because when we do tech news around the world every day, now twice a day, which you can see by clicking on the title of this room, you'll see the schedule. Mabwana has been one of these folks who's been joining us each day as an investor in Africa himself. And I realized, and he was telling stories, he's got a lot of firsthand experience and background. And I was like, oh, wow, I really myself personally want to learn more about what's going on there. And it was around the same time, about a month ago, there was a headline that we covered in Tech News Around the World about a startup from Lagos that became a unicorn. And I was like, this is fantastic. They're already starting to get unicorns in Africa. And I think that would, be a pleasant surprise to a lot of folks. That Africa's at the stage now where they're starting to get tech unicorns, startup unicorns, which is great. And I want to know where they're coming from. And I want to know, what the opportunities are. And Mabwana has been very helpful in helping us understand that. And Liz as well. My God, I have to thank Liz, who's been joining us for many, many weeks now and Tech News Around the World, and has been incredibly helpful in putting this event together with the fine group that we have on stage right now. And welcome Lacan and Elaine and let's
Tyler,
do
I think
this.
Michael is in the
Tyler,
audience now.
Michael just
Michael
came
is
to the
there.
audience.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Michael,
Bring him
raise
up.
your hand. Pick me up, Michael. Raise your hand.
Great. There he is. Invite on stage. Handsome looking guy that he is. Here we go. Awesome. I'm so excited to do this. So let's jump into this. Flash your microphones if you know how to. If you're one of the startups like Dr. Wuleta, who's pitching today, and Michael, you're pitching today, and what CD Care is also pitching today. Toby, right? And then, okay, I see everyone there. And then for investor wise, Liz is an investor on the continent. Mabwana is an investor on the continent. And Gobenga, you helped us connect with Coyote, who's also an investor on the continent, which is great. Am I missing somebody else? The gentleman, Anthony. Are you pitching? Oh no, you're doing investing.
He's an investor.
Oh, fantastic! Awesome, thank you, Liz. So, and then let's jump into it. So, here, my question to start things off is, what do people not? And this is my question for the investors, because we always start every month by asking the investors to just give a short little background about themselves. Let's start there. So just we'll go through each of the investors real fast. Just give 1 minute about yourself and what's unique about you, how you approach investing in Africa, for example. Liz, you want to go first? Liz or Mabwana? We'll come back to Liz.
Yeah, I can go first if you like.
Sure,
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
me?
Yeah.
I'm making sure I'm using my iPad today because Android is still very buggy. So if you can't hear me, let me know.
You
But
sound great.
this should be fine, right?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So I'm originally from Tanzania, where I am now, but I spent most of my early professional career in the UK and the US, working in aerospace in the UK after an engineering degree, flight testing, all that jazz. Pretty fun job. A childhood a boy toys dream, I guess you'd say. And then I switched over to the US. Went to business school at Stanford. That's how I know Paul Davidson of Clubhouse, for instance. He's my class. Worked at Microsoft for 3 or 4 years as a product manager of Excel Access and Business Intelligence. Then came back to the Bay Area and started doing some early stage VC. And there was a fund called IO Ventures, one of the early accelerators in Silicon Valley. It was kind of more boutique. It wasn't trying to be a sort of YC or a 500 startups, although we were very friendly with those, particularly 500 startups. IO Ventures was kind of backed by founders of PayPal, BitTorrent, MySpace, a bunch of others. And that's where I met Paul. I met Paul Bragle at business school. He became a partner in Savannah Fund later on. In 2012, I moved back to the continent after raising the first $500,000. I said, if I'm going to do investing in Africa, I've got to move home. My dad told me that don't come home unless you have a plan. He was terrified of some of our family friends and of course our family of folks coming back home and not really having a plan and kind of wasting away or not really bringing much value back home. So obviously moving back to be a VC was a great opportunity. So in 2012, I started the Savannah Fund, and we focused first on the accelerator actually. So obviously I had been running an accelerator in Silicon Valley for a couple of years with Paul at IO Ventures, and moved back and started doing that out of iHub in Kenya, which was one of the first recognized tech hubs in 2012. And yeah, through the accelerator, we invested in about 14 companies. Wizza on Stage was one of the companies that we backed. He was doing a marketing tech startup at the time, I believe. So yeah, we were writing small checks, 25K to 50K. And then we had one exit from that. Otherwise, being high risk, pretty much all of them failed, apart from one left now. It's a gaming studio in Uganda called Cola Studios. They make mobile games for East Africa. We then shifted to more seed investing in Nigeria, South Africa, and beyond. Some of the companies we've backed include Aerobotics in South Africa, that is a drone ag tech startup that's scaled globally. Lydia in Nigeria, that does SME lending, that's expanded into Europe. More recently, Flex Club that does car leasing, the future of car ownership and basically future of mobility. I think Hertz meets Uber. Yeah, and that's kind of a little bit about Savannah Fund. And yeah, happy to be here and excited to connect to other investors.
Great.
Coyote and Toby and of course Wizza, as well as Kyle and Tyler. Of course, I've known you guys in a while now. Great room before. I love tuning in. Always get insights, and yeah, it's great to have this dedicated Africa slot.
I couldn't agree more. I want to thank you for that, Mabwana. Liz, are you with us?
Yes, I'm back. I apologize. I had a phone call.
Oh, no worries at all. I just wanted to give you the floor to just let everyone know kind of what you're all about in terms of investing in Africa.
Okay, so we started out in 2018. What we actually started out by doing was facilitating trade between Asia and Africa. So a lot of the work that we did from our start was mostly government work, so G2G funding, where we would connect African governments with funding, sovereign funds from Southeast Asia, China, Japan, and so forth. And then we started slowly moving towards the startup ecosystem around 2019, where we did start working a lot more with the startup ecosystem, mostly through our partners, AfriLabs, that is based on the continent, and we would match their startups, with funding out of Southeast Asia, mostly VCs as well as family offices. As we continued to grow, we did start raising capital for female tech founders, because I think there is such a huge gap on the continent. I mean, just generally worldwide, we all know that there is a huge funding gap in regards to gender funding. So we started working with female tech founders through our accelerator program, which is called FemTech, and we typically do very small ticket sizes, as well as also help facilitate, as well match the startups with funding from Southeast Asia. So that's what we do. Happy to be here, and I'm very excited to see how this pitch day is going to work out. Thanks, Tyler.
Boom. Awesome. Let's turn it to Coyote, and I just have to again thank you to my friend Gabenya Joseph in Stockholm for introducing us. He spoke highly of you. Welcome to the Tech Meetup, and please take a minute to tell us about your investing in Africa.
Thanks, Tyler. Happy to be here, and I hope I do justice to Benga's introduction. My name is Kayode. I'm a partner at a fund called Ventures Platform. So, quick introductions about Ventures Platform. We're an early stage investor across the African continent. We typically are the first check or second check into most of the companies we back. And to date, we've backed over 50 companies actively across three countries, largely Nigeria, Kenya, and Egypt. And we're doing our first investment in South Africa this week. Some of our early investments, Paystack is probably one of the most obvious ones. Paystack was acquired by Stripe last year.
Nice.
We've also backed a number of category leading companies across multiple verticals in Nigeria and in Kenya, fintech, PiggyVest, which is essentially one of the biggest financial product for millennials in Nigeria with over 2 million users. And a bunch of other companies across multiple sectors, right? So in terms of our thinking and our thesis, we largely focus on companies, solving for non-consumption, right? And if you have spent any time on the African continent, you would realize that the non-consumption is acute, right? The inability of people or businesses to consume financial services. A huge portion of the continent is still unbanked or underbanked, right? People cannot get access to credit or get into the financial ecosystem, right? Investment products are still sort of like a luxury for lots of people. And so we're essentially focused on, companies that are leveraging technology, and unique insights to solve for this non-consumption, right? And just briefly speaking about my journey, being at Ventures Platform since day one. We initially started out as an accelerator, but over time we morphed into being a fund. We also run a foundation which essentially works with much earlier companies, so companies at the idea stage, and the foundation sort of serves as a funnel for the fund. We funded a bunch of companies out of the foundation. Spent the past 2 years also running a fintech focused accelerator for one of Nigeria's biggest asset managers, ARM. And through the accelerator, we've had a bunch of companies go ahead to Techstars, and I think YC, if I'm correct. And before that, I spent most of my time, building companies and working at early stage companies, right? So I was early at a company called Metro Africa Express. We're essentially the first African company to get funded by Texas, New York. We raised about $1 million seed round, and thereafter I raised about $10 million in full-on capital. And before that, I'd spent most of my time building companies, right? So the way I tend to think about myself is, I've gone the full length, right? I've been an entrepreneur, been an employee, and now on the investment side, right? So I'm largely able to empathize with founders as they, go along this journey.
Very cool. Awesome. And then Anthony.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Just a brief background on us. We're a family office, investment office, you could say, in Mayfair. There's about 5 partners. We will invest in 3 sectors in particular. One being property, second being renewable energy, and third, which is relevant to the conversation today, would be our subsidiary, which is a venture capital firm. We usually invest directly into companies, but we have invested in a fund in South Africa also. Anywhere from pre-seed to Series B usually. I won't go into the sectors, which you guys could have a look at in my bio, which I've stated there. Check sizes between 50,000 to about 1.5 million. So yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I want to ask each of you real quickly. Um, Here's what I feel is the main question that people could benefit from: is what is the biggest misconception that people have about Africa with regard to, you know, all the other investors? By the way, a huge headline that Mabwana brought to Tech News Around the World about a week ago was that there's a new investor in Africa by the name of Sequoia Capital that maybe you've heard of, because it's the most important investor in the world. And when Sequoia gets involved somewhere geographically, that normally catches the attention of all the other best top investors in the world, and how exciting that is, right? So clearly Sequoia's got this is a fantastic tipping point moment, I think, because when Sequoia went into China, everyone else started, following along. When anything Sequoia does, it gets everyone's attention and they start following along. But I'm wondering, to this point, what do people not yet know that they should know about investing in Africa? What are the maybe the biggest misconception or the biggest opportunity that maybe people aren't realizing? Let's go back in the same order that we just went through before. So back to Mabona.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest misconceptions is just how ridiculously globalized Africa tech investing is in the startups ecosystem. By that I mean, like when I showed up in 2012, there's a lot of impact investors playing around in African startups with the sort of greenfield funds, meaning that they're not structured like a 10-year fund with a return, but more evergreen. We're talking like Gates Foundation or Midyar Network. Think about your family offices that kind of really have an interest in Africa, but not necessarily, and are very patient. And that capital has been very, very useful in particularly in investing in hubs. And actually, I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned Sequoia being, that investment they made in Egypt in the neobank. It might not have been their first one. It may have been
True.
a Zipline, which again is an American company out of Rwanda that we talked about, I think, a few sessions ago. That's doing drone deliveries. That may have been Sequoia. But then, how do you define an African startup? If an American startup shows up to Rwanda and starts piloting drones because they can do it easier than the U.S. and then scales globally, is that an African startup?
Great
And then
point.
also the other one I shared earlier was OPay's $400 million supposed raise coming up. That was a Chinese entrepreneur, Zhao, who was a billionaire who made money in China, obviously, and kind of came over to Nigeria with his OPay platform. And I think Sequoia China backed that, right? So it's kind of hard to even say, like, that's a Chinese entrepreneur, obviously in Africa, but we over time we've seen definitely more Africans getting involved in the sector. I'm very impressed, and it's awesome to see Nigeria, investors, kind of locally grown, kind of emerge, as well as more local startups. Whilst in East Africa, you tend to see a lot more expats show up, in Kenya, particularly, and that creates kind of a definite narrative about what's going on with African startups. There's a lot of expats showing up. So this is an ongoing debate, but you tend to see less of that in Nigeria. And then, of course, we're seeing Japanese play in this space. We're seeing, European investors come in this space. It's actually very, very globalized, and you can't look at it in one lens. I mean, you have to have a PhD in macroeconomics and United Nations to understand some of the deals and what's happening. Of course, Egypt is very different. It's great to see that the investors like Coyote are starting from Nigeria, going to Kenya, and then Egypt, and then South Africa. I haven't got the bandwidth to cover Nigeria. Sorry, Ethiopia right now. Sorry, not Ethiopia. Egypt right now. Ethiopia is my latest market, which is massively opening up. 100 million people, very closed. So yeah, like, it's a huge continent with just a lot of different angles, and you cannot label it as one continent really, as one big sort of mass you can invest in. You have to really start picking your corridors even very well. Like, are you an American YC into Africa? Are you a Chinese into Africa? Are you a European, Japanese? It's really you have to kind of pick your corridors, or you can get burnt out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Asia in that way. It's like trying to say, I invest in Asia. It's like, well, what the hell do you mean? It's so freaking big. There's, Thailand alone is a huge opportunity at the moment. China, Japan, like, forget India, where they're cranking out unicorns every 30 minutes over there.
Can I
Hey,
just
Gabenya, go.
I
Yeah,
just
what's up, man?
yeah, I just wanted to add something which I think is very interesting. So I remember, so for those of you who don't know, I used to run do Stockholm Tech a meetup with or Stockholm Tech Fest with Tyler. And I remember I used to mention to VCs in Sweden as far back as 2016 that there was a lot of exciting things happening in Africa, and I do a lot of advisory for investors. And they used to ask me a question like, where are the exits? Is what they used to say in Stockholm.
Uh-huh.
In 2016, 2017. There's a company called Paystack that you mentioned that was acquired by Stripe. I remember mentioning to a bunch of investors in 2016 and 2017 saying, these are interesting things happening on the African continent. And they all said, we love Africa, we think it's great, but where are the exits? So I think one thing that's changed now, where everybody is now looking, is the exits are starting to happen, right? So Stripe has bought a company for 200 million. World Remit bought another company called Sendwave out of Senegal for 500 million. And now investors are starting to see that, oh, there are exits, right? And I think that's kind of one of the tipping points that's happened in the last few months or so, well, in the
Amen.
last year or so.
Amen. And by the way, they used to say the same thing about Stockholm, did they not? Like the London investors
Exactly.
used to say, "Oh, what Sweden? Huh? What Stockholm? Where are the exits now?" And now, and then India's going through its big unicorn, phase, and I'm convinced Africa's next. So
Yeah.
Liz, what I want to turn it to you. What do you think on this question of what is maybe the most
Misconceptions.
misconceptions? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will definitely agree with both Wana and uh, Venga in just the fact that it's just the lack of understanding of the markets in Africa. I think one of the things that I have found just from the Asian perspective, because I do work with a lot of Asian investors, is as much as China is very bullish when it comes to Africa, Southeast Asia is not the same. There is still some level of just risk aversion in that area. But then I think one of the issues that I've found is this, just number one, the lack of visibility of the startups and the activity that is taking place on the continent. I think we were actually discussing this earlier in the Good Morning Africa show when we were talking about how VC funding is predicted to actually increase and grow to an ultimate high this year as compared to the previous years. And another issue that I find is just the fact that investors do not understand or perhaps maybe underestimate the size of the different markets on the continent. Of course, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, and South Africa, these are all the very big markets. But then we also have to understand, especially now with the AFCFTA, which is the Africa Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was implemented in January, is that Africa is moving towards becoming a single market. So as an international investor, it's important for you to understand how just what that means from an investment perspective. This opens up your market to a larger audience. Africa will now be able to intra-trade between itself. Infrastructure, hopefully, will be a lot better improved. So if, say, for example, you are investing in a company in Nigeria, you now have access to the entire continent, especially with the move towards becoming a single market that the continent is going to be. So I think that's a thing that's the opportunity that investors need to understand about what Africa presents to them, because you're not only now looking at one market in Nigeria, one market in Kenya, but now you're going to be expanding your market beyond just one country. And this is a great opportunity when it comes to looking at your exits as well as your ROI ultimately.
Love it. Coyote.
I mean, what's more to say? I mean, everybody's has spoken about it. I mean, if you think just to add, so I think generally, a lot of investors still grossly underestimate how big this market is and how fast it is growing, right? Um, I mean, long term, we're super bullish on Africa. We think it presents the most compelling opportunity for long term growth. I mean, you look at the population, it's massively growing. 2050, probably gonna Nigeria alone is probably gonna get somewhere around 300, 400 million people. I mean, and also the acute non-consumption, I think, is grossly underestimated, right? And of course, this presents opportunities. I also think something that's grossly underestimated in this market is the quality of talent, right? I mean, companies are built on secrets and just sheer quality of the founders. I mean, in speaking to founders globally and interacting with founders globally, I mean, the quality of talent on the continent I mean, would, the quality of people on the continent will potentially build companies anywhere in the world, right? And when you have this abundance of, smart people trying to tackle hard problems, it's also just a matter of time before you begin to see them build phenomenal companies, right? And over the last year, we've seen, like Benga alluded to, we see a lot of liquidity event happening, Sendwave, even Fowry on the Egyptian market hit a $2 billion valuation, on the public market, right? And what we need to pay attention to is typically when you begin to have events like liquidity events like this, what you're going to see over the next 5 years is that the growth is not going to be incremental, right? The growth then becomes, geometric. So over the next 5 years, I reckon I'm supposed to see a few more liquidity events. We'll probably see another, a lot more, 20, 30, 40, just given the sheer quality of companies that have been built on the continent, right? So, I think anybody that is really bullish on, long-term returns, this is the right time to be betting on Africa.
I love it.
And
And before I turn it to Anthony, I
Just to
want to
add,
say, yeah, a quick point here. You mentioned talent, and that when I think of talent, I think I think of my friend Gabenya, who left Nigeria, was working at Google in Europe. Now he's doing growth at TransferWise, one of the fastest growing startups in the world, and I think I imagine there's a lot of Nigerians, notably, but from everywhere on the continent that are, doing things, interesting things in tech in Europe and in America, and might be in the process of in the near future bringing that back to the continent now that things are getting ripe and interesting, and then you get this real explosion. We saw this in China actually, right, where a lot of the similar to Mabwana knows this. My God, you had a lot of the Chinese students going to Stanford and UC Berkeley specifically. You had Masayoshi-san from Japan, the biggest investor in one of the biggest investors in Asia, period, came from Japan, went over to UC Berkeley, came back to Japan, and now he's running one of the biggest VC funds in the world, right? So I imagine it's only a matter of time, Gabenya, before you're the Masayoshi-san of Nigeria, right?
and if I just share like a personal context there, when I
Yeah,
was working in Sweden 10 years ago, 2011, 2012, this was kind of before the startup ecosystem was taken off in Nigeria. Tyler, we used to talk about this at house parties, if you remember. I
mm-hmm.
would have people in Nigeria kind of asking me, they were looking for product designers, they were looking for app developers. This was as far back as 2012. In 2021, I spent, before I joined Wise, I was at Revolut. I met at least 10 or 15 Nigerians and Africans working in product roles in this
That's
company.
what I'm saying.
So I've seen within the decade exactly to what Kayode is saying. There's a lot of talent that's already started to incubate. And as you know, as ecosystems go, once there's a couple of exits, a lot of people start to get interested. So the growth is actually happening a lot more exponentially than any of us I would have imagined.
Before we turn it to Anthony Lacan, you want to jump in? What are people missing? Biggest misconceptions about Africa as an investor or startup perspective, or maybe he's on a call. We'll go to Anthony and then we'll try and circle back to Lacan. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, just things like that a digital solution that works in US or Europe would work in Africa, which is not the case in many circumstances, as well as the obvious one in terms of corruption, bribery. Some of the countries in Africa are labeled, the most corrupt free nations in the world, and points like this. So yeah, that's what I have to add.
Cool. Lacan, it looks like you're back. Go ahead. The question is, what do investors and geeks in general, what are the biggest misconception that they have about Africa?
No, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for helping make this event happen, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
No,
Lacan.
not at all. Not at all. Look, I think, Coyote said it best with talent, right? I think the other thing I would add is Africans are hustlers. Like Africans can hustle like nobody else, right? And you put talent, hustle, all they need now is connections and capital. And once you put those four potent things together, magic starts to happen. And to me, magic is starting to happen in Africa in really interesting ways. I think, let's add another little thing to it is Twitter. Like Twitter putting themselves in Ghana I think is going to catalyze another sort of give people more reasons to feel more comfortable in Africa. I think the thing for me is I think with a lot of VCs, what they're always looking for is the ability to save face. That if an investment goes south and it was a logical, and you can kind of say, well, hey, it made sense. Nobody will make you feel bad for making that investment. People need that ability. And with exits, it gives people that. The other side is pattern recognition, right? And so the pattern recognition that wasn't there with these exits, it's starting to be there. I think the thing to think, I think from an investor's perspective is, look, you want to go places, we optimize for what I call underestimated founders in overlooked places. And to me, if you're an investor, what you're looking for is opportunities like that before everybody else gets there. So to me, my thing to investors is look to Africa, because it's not charity anymore. It is actually a place to go to find undervalued assets where you can make outsized returns.
Amen.
I think that's really what it comes down to me.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm excited, man. I want to get over there bad. So check this out. So we've got, as always, this fantastic group of investors. We've got also a really impressive group of startups. And again, I got to thank our friends on stage for helping make this happen. And before we have the startups pitch, and they are going to pitch, and we're going to do 2 minutes each, guys. I want us. We have to stop and recognize this event, Stockholm Tech Meetup. The reason it's been going for 8 years strong every month is because we have fantastic partners that make this event possible. And you've heard of some of these. There's a company called EY you might have heard of, who's one of the big four, accounting firms of the planet. But what you probably don't know about EY is they love startups, and they help startups, especially in the Nordics, connect with investors. And then when deals are happening, they're always involved. They do management consultants with startups up in the Nordics, and they're involved in a lot of the top, unicorns and future unicorns up in the Nordics. And if you think of yourself as a future unicorn in the Nordics, you should definitely meet with EY. If you're having any kind of challenges or struggles dealing with investors or partners of any kind, I speak firsthand from my own firsthand experience with this, and I will personally connect you. If you are a Nordic startup and want to connect with them, it would be my pleasure. I'm incredibly picky about the partners that we work with, and every one of the big accounting firms has asked to be a partner, but we only pick the very best of each category, and EY has proven to me over many years that they are the best at what they do, and I'm thankful to have them as a partner. And for the same reason, I want to say the same about Danske Bank up in the Nordics, which is one of the leading banks up in the Nordics that genuinely loves startups, wants to do everything about startups, and they do it from their heart in a way that just impresses me to no end. So my sincere thank you to Danske Bank for everything they do in supporting the tech meetup, but also with all the startups they work with. Similar with the biggest, best law firm in all of the Nordics, which is Vinga. And again, I have every single law firm in the Nordics asking to be a partner in this event. I've been with Vinga for many years now, almost since the beginning, going back nearly 8 years, because they never fail. Not only do they work with IKEA and every big company you can think of in the Nordics, but they love working with the little startups you've never heard of. And they make it very easy. Even though they are the biggest and the best, that doesn't mean you can't get under the Vinga umbrella as a startup when you're starting out. And it's a beautiful thing that they do, and I love them. They're fantastic people. And there's two other quick ones. EQT Ventures, one of the best new VC groups, although now one of the biggest out of the Nordics. EQT Ventures is kicking ass. And again, with all of these partners, I'm happy to personally connect you. And last but not least, a little company you might have heard of called NASDAQ, which just what can you say about NASDAQ? That's where we're all trying to get to at the end of the day. So hopefully you get some money from EQT Ventures or the investors on stage, as we're going to have these pitches. And then you work with EY to build up. You do your business with Danske Bank. You have Vinga as your lawyers, and you end up on NASDAQ. So it's pretty much that simple. Thank you to all of our partners. Let's bring in the startups. And I'd like Michael from Pick Me Up to go first. Are you ready, Michael? Michael, are you there? From Pick Me Up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you ready to pitch, my friend?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thanks, Carl.
Let's do it. 2 minutes on the clock. No pressure. The investors have their checkbooks ready, and take it whenever you're ready.
It's okay. I'm ready. Thank you very much, Carl, for this great initiative. And I appreciate what you are doing with this, your team. So, hi, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm the founder and CEO of Pick Me Up. So I'm excited to share with you an opportunity to invest in our seed round of financing. So at Pick Me Up, we are merging everyday personal needs into a digital platform for emerging markets, starting with mobility. So we have chosen mobility as our entry point because we know the business best and is experiencing enormous growth. Currently, over 50,000 people rely on our ride-hailing platform to move around their cities, and we have done more than 100,000 trips to date. We are growing organically at an average monthly growth rate of 20%. We charge our drivers 15% commission, lower than our competitors, making our value proposition for drivers stronger, lowering our cost of supply acquisition while increasing retention. The team and I have complementary experience in this space, and we know how to make 1 + 1 = 3. Our CEO, Bartlomi, has most recently worked in Uber and Bolt and has spent the last 5 years building marketplaces in the mobility landscape across 6 countries in Africa. Long term, we are going to be much bigger than a rideshare platform by providing a one-stop shop for users to be able to commute, eat, deliver packages, and pay for their daily essentials through one Pick Me Up app. We are raising $1.2 million via SafeNote at $6 million cap. This will go towards geographic expansion and product development, particularly enhancing and expanding our technical team and robust marketing campaigns to help us reach these goals. If you are an investor and our business and mission to digitize society resonates with you, let's have a conversation. Thanks.
Well done. Questions for Michael from the investors? Open mic for Mabwana, Liz, Coyote, Anthony. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that, Michael. I've not been in Nigeria for a while, so I've not seen what the landscape looks like in ride sharing and delivery service. We are investors in ACE, Africa Courier Express, in the logistics sector. So, I've been watching them, and also Supermart.ng, which is a grocery delivery. But I want to kind of ask the elephant in the room if it's around. What do you think of OPay and ORide? And I believe there was a Nigeria ban on ride sharing, but at least in Lagos. And not necessarily other cities. I'd love to hear your take on how you're going to position yourself against the competitors and the landscape of regulatory environment around ride sharing and logistics.
So currently, the ban does not affect ride-hailing companies as far as vehicles are concerned. It only affected those the micro-mobility platforms like the motorcycles. That was what was actually banned. So I mentioned earlier that we have the lower fee than our competitors, which is 15%. But other than having the lowest fee of 15% versus both 20% and Uber's 25%, our main competitive advantage is our ability to offer drivers the flexibility to pay themselves. So currently, drivers have to wait for weekly payouts with no flexibility offered by Uber and Bolt. So this leads to their drivers prioritizing cash trips and resulting in cancellations of card trips. Also, we have built a wallet where drivers top up at will and effectively pay us our commission on each ride. So they can also request a payout of their accumulated funds, which can be processed within 48 hours. So what this means is that we have given drivers greater flexibility over their earnings, which our competitors, again, they don't offer that. Then we also offer free training for our drivers and free vehicle inspection. Then lastly, I'm sure you are aware the relationship between drivers and our two major competitors is very poor, with constant disagreements and protests every time on TV. But we are proud to look after our drivers, and we believe they are the backbone of this business. So this is something that sets us apart. I can go on and on, but let me not bore you.
I appreciate it. Liz?
No, I'm actually, listen, Michael is a startup that I'm working with, and I just wanted to just to back him on what he's saying, and also just to create a little bit of FOMO here. We are actually in the midst of speaking to Grab, the team at Grab. They are looking, because basically Pick Me Up is the Grab in Nigeria. What they're presenting and what they're offering in terms of their services is really just a replication of Grab, and we're in the midst of speaking to Grab as well. So just to create a little bit of FOMO there for the investors.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's a pleasure to have you here, Michael. If Coyote and Anthony don't have a question, we will turn it to the next startup. Coyote, you want to go?
Yeah, so I just have a couple quick questions. Thanks, Michael, for the presentation. Quick one. Just curious about what cities are you operational in Nigeria? And then the follow-up question is, I said today for your drivers, what's the average number of rides per week? Right. Yeah.
Okay, so currently we are the market leaders in Warri and Asaba. I'm sure you are familiar with those cities. Then for the drivers, we've provided employment for over 3,500 drivers, and we are doing over 500, almost 1,000 rides per week.
Cool.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can take the questions offline. So
Yeah.
I don't dig it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then that's the idea, is that you hopefully, I mean, one of the things we've always tried to do with this event is hope the grand plan is that you guys try and schedule what used to be lunch at the Stockholm event, because everyone's on stage together. But in this case, it's more of a Zoom call follow up is what I hope happens, right? That's the next step. So let's turn it to Dr. Wuleta. Are you ready to pitch?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hi,
Take
Taylor.
2
How are
minutes
you?
on the clock. I'm great, thanks. And I'm excited to hear your pitch. So 2 minutes for the pitch, and then we'll do Q&A, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
My name is Dr. Ullat Alama. I'm the CEO of Lalibela Global, and we are building the African Healthcare Passport. For those of you who are looking at my picture, if you can touch it, that is what I'm trying to change in Africa. The healthcare system in African countries is archaic, through paper-based, and this generates a lot of problem both for the hospitals, clinics, and the patients. And the data that you can see when you are doing PTR on my thing is where it is located, and it's very painful to see that. What is our solution? We built a digitized solution called Up by CHR. Up by CHR is a connected patient-centered healthcare system, a digital health solution, a passport, but not only that, a modular system that works at a village clinic or can work at a mega hospital. Abbai does fit with the UN Development Goal 3, 10, and 12, where good health, we are trying to improve the health system in Africa by democratizing the access to medical information, reduce inequalities, and also 12, which is using paper, is costly and wastely, and we want to change that. In operation of 4 years, we have achieved 100K in revenue. We have digitized 1.3 million patient record in 4 hospitals, and currently also we have digitized 1K COVID patients. So what does it look like, and who's our team? My name is, like I said, Dr. Bultalama. I am a CEO of the company. I have been working in Africa for the last 28 years in public health, and I'm a graduate of Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. Our CTO, Marra Kokabe, is a software engineer for Illinois Technology Institute of Technology with more than 20 years of experience, and Kevin Hines, who is our system architect with more than 30 years of experience, a graduate of Stanford University, and Dr. Girma Azana, a graduate of Oxford and London School of Economics, more than 30 years of experience. So what are we trying to do? Africa, like I said, if you move from one facility to the other, the patient record doesn't move with you. It gets lost. Most of our patients are 70% of Africa is rural, and when our patients move from one facility to the other, the data doesn't move. So what we are trying to get is strategic partnership with companies who want to come with us, telecom companies, infrastructure companies. We want to make sure that if you move from Lagos to Ethiopia, your patient wallet, your patient healthcare passport moves with you, and we have the technology for that. We also build the technology to make it very easy for our healthcare professional that follows their work schedule. Our company is registered in Addis, in Ethiopia, and in the US. This is Dr. Buleta, Dan speaking.
Well done. Open mic questions from the investors for Dr. Wuleta.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dr. Walletta. I'm a huge fan of Ethiopia. I think, Tyler, you've been hearing me,
Yep.
quietly. There's a number of reasons why I like Ethiopia. One, it's just opening up. I mean, just this last week, I believe EthioTel it launched their mobile money wallet, Telebur. They also opened up the telco sector. I actually already have a pre-seed investment in a company called Orbit Health in Ethiopia. Made that about a year and a half ago. And so, but I'm also definitely interested in looking at other health tech startups in the region. So my question for you actually would be, you mentioned you're building a health passport, but it's still quite basic, the internet connectivity services in Ethiopia. I mean, even when TechCrunch had I think the Ethiopian government opened an event a couple of years back, and the TechCrunch reporter Jake Bright was complaining about how the internet still wasn't great in Ethiopia. And of course, it's a function of having a monopoly operator. How are you going to be creating this health passport in the near term when internet services are not that great? I'm curious to understand, how you're looking at the infrastructure side of things as you scale up in the short term, at least. I mean, obviously, long term it should be really exciting, but is the health passport really going to take off in the short term, or would you be doing something else in the meantime?
So thank you, Mubawani. Our system is end to end. We have a medical record system which is on the cloud, but can be on your server. For example, the 1.4 million records are in local servers in the hospitals, and so we have the system that, if you want, it can be in your local server. But we also have App by Mobile, where you can get your information on your mobile from the hospitals and move from hospital to the hospital. We are working with Microsoft also to put our system in their cloud. So when there is connection, when you move from place to place, you can use the cloud service. But if you don't have cloud, you can actually use your app from the hospitals where it is in their servers to move on your mobile. And then when you go to the next hospital, the other doctor, if there is no connection, you are the connector, the person showing your medical record. I hope I answered it.
Yeah, can you help bring
Yeah,
this?
thanks.
Can you help bring this to America? Because we could use some of that too.
I was asked actually by Small Business Administration 2 weeks ago, why can't you do this in America?
I have a question, and I also be interested in what Kaya did because I know Ventures Platform. I've done a couple of health investments. The question I have is if you look at sort of patient to doctor ratios in Africa compared to Europe, I think something like Sweden has about 160 per 100,000, and Africa, that number, if anybody can guess, that number here is below 10, right? We're talking about 7, 8 doctors per 100,000. So the question is just not sort of like, digitizing, but there's a real lack of care professionals. I wonder if, your system, or if you're thinking of how to actually leverage that as opposed to just being able to collect information for patients, but how can your tool or your product really help like kind of get more, better primary healthcare?
So, since I didn't have enough time, I didn't talk about myself. I've been working for 16 years to build human capacity from the community health extension workers to the doctors, to help them to have a solution that makes sense for a community worker to register their registers and things like that. This means, I'm not sure if you are in Nigeria, it means that the people who are working in the dispensaries. So I've been building capacity for data use and digitization. In Africa, when you do something, you have to do also the foundation. And the foundation is human resource. So I say that in Ethiopia alone, I have more than 4,000 children that have graduated and now working in the different districts and hospitals. So digitization comes on the top of human resource. So we have been gradually building the human resource. And then the Africa population, as you know, is very young, less than 30. If you go to the hospitals and clinics, the nurses, the clinical officers, the data managers are very IT savvy, mobile savvy, and it's the fastest growing continent. So what we are saying is I am a kind of person who looks at the glass half full. We go to the places where you can digitize while we continue to build the human resources as we go along, from the community health workers to the specialists.
Very cool. Should we take it over to Toby with CD Care? Let's do it. Toby, you ready?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am happy to be here. My name is Toby. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm the CEO of CDK. So CDK is a marketplace that lets Africans pay in installments for gadgets and appliances at zero interest. We are like Affirm and Afterpay, but designed to avoid Africa's credit and marketplace problems. We deliver at 50% installments. Items delivered serves as collateral, and we own our own marketplace. So the problem is that salaries are paid monthly in Africa, but there is no way for Africans to buy items and pay in installments as it exists in other developed worlds. You want to buy a car in Nigeria, you have to go to the dealership with your full money. You want to buy a gadget or electronics, a phone, you have to go with your full money. Where your salaries are paid monthly, it doesn't make sense. So we are starting in Nigeria by selling gadgets and appliances. In the nearest future, we'll be expanding to other African countries, selling cars, homes, and other items. In summary, we are building the mortgage system of Africa, which doesn't exist at all for now. We launched 16 months ago, and this is our attraction. We've done 3K items to 2K users. Our GMV since we launched, that's gross merchandise volume, has been 844K in total. We did 200K in April, and we did 142K in March. We are in the middle of raising a seed round of 500K at $5 million valuation, and we'll be happy to have you guys join us. I am Toby from Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Well done, Toby. Open mic questions for Toby.
So I have two questions for Toby. So Toby, the first question is, I'm curious as to how you finance your loan book, right? Essentially, you're financing these items, and then I believe users pay over time, right? I'm curious as to how you finance it today and how you intend to scale that financing, right? Because a lot of the banks and big financial institutions are also beginning to launch similar products. I mean, I know a bank that's actually working on this in Nigeria, and I mean, they can access cheaper capital. They have cheap capital, right? So essentially, you probably wouldn't be able to compete with them on rates, right? So I'm just curious as to how you're thinking about, scaling, how you currently fund your loan book and how you intend to scale that over time. Um, and then the second question is just curious as to how you determine credit worthiness on the part of the consumer.
So to answer your questions, just for the records, we launched first before other platforms start to follow suit, and we are still winning, in my opinion. So what we are doing is like a modified microfinance system in Nigeria. We are able to do this because my father manages a microfinance system back at home, so I understand the model. Remember, I said we deliver at 50% installment. So what we operate is more like a savings and loan platform. We help you to save half before we loan you the remaining half. So we have savings that serves as float that helps us to finance some of these gadgets that we deliver. Also, I have sold gadgets and appliances for more than 10 years in Nigeria. So I've built a relationship with the sellers of most of these appliances such that they give us these items and let us also pay in installments. So many of the items that we are delivering to users, as they are paying installments, we are also paying our vendors in installments too. And one other thing is we partner with only the topmost distributors in Nigeria, like Fowani, like New Home Distribution Limited, only the topmost. We don't partner with the retailers that other marketplaces partner with. And to also answer your questions, the other question is I seem to have lost track of it.
The other question was how you determine credit worthiness for the consumer. How do you credit score the consumer?
So remember I said we have a savings period. So if you're on a 6 months installment, let's say, your first month, if you are consistent with your installments, that's a plus. Second month, if you are consistent, that's a plus. Third month, if you are consistent, that's a plus. So we deliver to you. If you are not consistent with the first half of your installments, you will have to wait till you pay fully before we deliver to you. So like I said, we are built to avoid Africa's credit and marketplace problems because Africa presently has an underdeveloped credit scoring system. So we built our own credit scoring system into the platform, and that's that savings period. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thanks, Toby.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Open mic question for Toby from CD Care. Toby, I got a question for you. Is it in Sweden we have a company called Klarna, and I
I know,
imagine,
Klana.
yeah, I imagine you do. What can you speak about? How is it? What are the main similarities or differences?
So I know Klarna allows up to 4 months installments thereabouts. Because of the nature of Africa, we allow up to 12 months installments because
Oh wow.
these items are a bit expensive and we want people to be able to spread the installments. So we allow up to 12 months installments. And another thing is we charge a flat zero interest. I believe Klarna does so too. And I think those are the major differences. And another thing is Klarna delivers immediately. We deliver at 50% installment. So let's say you're on a 2 month installment now, you pay half, we deliver to
Ah,
you, you pay half next month.
yeah,
If you're on a 4 months installment, you pay 1/4 this month, next month you pay another 1/4, we deliver to you, and you pay month 3 and month 4. So we deliver at 50% installments. Klarna delivers immediately. And of course, it makes sense in Africa because you cannot just jump out and start delivering products to people that you don't know their credit worthiness.
right.
So we had to put that gap to help us make sure that this person is credit worthy, prove to us, which is more like what microfinance system in Nigeria does. You have to prove to the society that you are credit worthy before they trust you with loans. That is what we are doing basically.
Love it.
And just to add to like what Toby, I think maybe it's not really clear or understand for people who are in Sweden or elsewhere. So Klarna, for example, is like a payment method. You still have most of the relationship with whatever merchant. Toby's company, and Toby, correct me if I'm wrong, is taking a more active step as well.
Right.
So they source the product, they take an active step. So they own the customer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they would have information about the customer they will be able to generate that even the merchants cannot, right? So that's something that's very
Yes,
interesting.
exactly. We own our own marketplace and we are able to use the items that we deliver as collateral. One
It's
of the
fine.
reasons why we decided to own our own marketplace is because Africa still has a marketplace problem. Let's say we wanted to launch this and partner with Jumia. Jumia has a big problem of delivering substandard products because they partner with retailers, roadside retailers, who delivers substandard products. That is why for us, we decided to have our own marketplace and partner with only original sellers in Nigeria, the topmost distributors. So we don't have a problem of delivering substandard products. Another thing is we don't warehouse items. We just pick up from when you customer wants to purchase. When it is time to deliver to the customer, we just pick up from the supplier, the vendor, and give it to our shipping company that just ships. So we don't have the problem of returns. If we deliver a faulty product, the company that is our vendor would go and solve the problem. So our problem, the marketplace problems in that Jumia has, we have been able to avoid it totally. That's why we are not partnering with Jumia or any other existing marketplace in Nigeria. We decided to have ours because that's the only thing that can work in this space.
Very cool. I got to say, I'm having a hard time picking a favorite now between between Pick Me Up and Dr. Willetta and Toby with CD Care. I really like all of them. Yeah, Mabwana, is there one that is catching your eye? I'll just go through. Let's go through all four of the investors on stage. I'm just curious which one might be catching your eye, or let's just say which one had the pitch today that caught your attention.
Yeah, I
Michael.
actually had a question for all of the startups, which is around what kind of investor they're looking for, and what are the Africa expansion plans beyond their home market as far as timing. It's something that is something I've definitely learned over the years around. Obviously, Nigeria tends to be a big enough consumer market to spend quite a while.
Great question.
But I also see some startups hastily move because it's maybe their market is too small or it's competitive. So I'm curious the sequencing post seed, Series A, and what kind of investor you're looking for.
Well, here's the problem is we're now at the top of the hour. And so let's give just a few seconds each as quickly as we each can. But that is such a great question. Give each startup a chance to answer that. We'll go in the same order, Michael, Dr. Willetta, and Toby. Michael, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
So Mabwana had a question about what kind of I think if I remember correctly, Michael said very clearly what his evaluation is and everything, right? So we have your kind of your main points of your round. Dr. Willetta, what kind of amount are you looking for, and more specifically, what are you looking for from an investor?
Sorry, Michael.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, go on. Go on, doctor.
We are planning to reach more than 600 hospitals and 75 million patients in 5 years, and around 50,000 healthcare professionals. We'd like to have strategic partners who will open the markets in Africa. Currently, we have it in English, but we are very soon, in few months, we are going to add one language, Portuguese, and then French to expand. So anybody who has infrastructure, telecom, insurance companies, big companies who are relocating to Africa, who needs their health workforce data to move from places to places. So we need strategic partner. I saw Faraz earlier. He was here, and he's also one of our advisors.
Oh, really?
Thank you very much. Yes.
That's great. Yeah, Faraz is awesome. And then Toby, and let's go back to Michael. It's Mabana's question
Sorry,
about what are you looking for from
Tyler.
an investor? Hey, yes, Elaine, what's up?
I wanted to ask Dr. Lima a question.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah. You said all of these great things, but what is the amount that you said that you needed? I didn't hear that part. Sorry.
We were going to raise $1 million, but now we prefer to have strategic partnership. Our valuation is $23 million.
Thank you.
And let's go, Michael, and then Toby.
Yeah, so we are raising $1.2 million, like I earlier said. Then what we are looking for from an investor is an investor that is equally passionate about what we are building, not just giving us money, somebody that would like to be with us, not someone that will come in on our seed round and already thinking of exiting, someone that will also work with us down the road, build connections for us, help us to get other investors for our Series A and all that, because Pick Me Up will grow rapidly because it has IPO potential. So yes, so that's the type of investor we are looking for.
Perfect. Toby?
So for us, we are trying to raise 500k seed round, and we are looking for investors that would help us to go Pan-African. And that's because CDK has the capacity to be a product that everybody in Africa would love. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. And the good thing is many of the vendors, the topmost distributors that we partner with now, already have offices in Ghana, Kenya, and the likes. So we already have vendor partnership in those countries. We just need to move there, which we intend to start doing by 2022. We intend to move to Kenya and Ghana.
Very cool. Let me phrase the question this way. In Clubhouse, where we are right now, there's this terminology we say of giving flowers to people rather than giving checks to people, as investors do to startups. But Mabana, who would you like to give flowers to here of the three startups that pitched here today?
Yeah, I mean, I have a preference for Ethiopia, and I like healthcare right now. It's definitely we're beefing up our healthcare portfolio across Africa. Where obviously COVID has helped to accelerate the trends. Yeah, so I would say the doctor Waleta Lema is actually the one I'd like to give flowers, and definitely interested to follow up. And yeah, I'll be in Ethiopia probably next month or so. I already have an existing investment there, and it's a 1.5 hour flight from Kilimanjaro, where I'm based, which is so it's fairly close, and I'm looking to do more there. So yeah, Nigeria, I'm a big fan of, but I just haven't been there in a while, and it's quite complicated to get there right now. I think it'll do, and I'm quite a hands-on investor. Yes, I do invest over Zoom and stuff and Clubhouse, but like right now, I'm definitely looking at Ethiopia much more as it opens up.
Very cool.
Looks like we have a match.
Yeah, it might be a match. Liz, anyone you want to give flowers to, Liz?
Absolutely. I'm definitely with Michael. He and I have already discussed, so I'm absolutely backing him on this one. Like I said, we're already sort of speaking with other investors for him. But this does not negate the fact that this is a great opportunity. I think Pick Me Up presents a huge opportunity, not just for Nigeria, but as well as just the entire Africa. I think it's a great contender against the Ubers and the Bolts of Africa.
And like you said, I mean, it's just a matter of time before Grab and others, they're eventually going to get excited about the opportunities, and there'll be somebody there similar like Kareem in the Middle East. I think most people know how that played out very well for Kareem and their investors. Let's say to Coyote, anyone you want to give flowers to of the startups pitching today?
He's jumped off. He's had to leave,
Okay.
Tyler. Okay. Yeah.
Well, you want to speak in his place, Gabenga?
I do advise them, and I advise a lot of other VCs. I don't know. I think, look, all three were great: transportation, health, and obviously sort of e-commerce. I would probably give my flowers to Toby. That's because I really understand the space.
Yeah. And
And I used to
if anyone who's spent time in Scandinavia knows how a massive Klarna became, and it's yeah.
exactly. And a personal anecdote there as well is when I walked in Electrolux in Sweden, those 12 years ago. The reason why Electrolux did not want to expand into Africa was because, and I quote this, somebody said to me, the Africans can't afford those appliances. So
Ah,
so
so
so so if Toby's solving
Toby's got
that,
his work cut out for him. Yeah,
exactly. So I think Toby, I'll probably give flowers to, but Dr. Laputa, definitely, I think healthcare is just one of those never-ending. Like it's just, she's definitely, there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff happening there.
very cool. Anthony?
To be upfront, none of them fit within our sectors, but all of the pitches were amazing. And if I knew the specific industries, I would be interested. But in terms of flowers, it would have to go to Toby actually, for me. So yeah.
Makes sense. And I want to say, I really loved doing this, and I want to thank Lacan and Liz and Mabwana and Gabenga and everybody who helped make this happen today. And I have to thank our partners again who help make this happen every month now for over 8 years, for EY and Danske Bank, EQT Ventures, Vigna, and NASDAQ. And it's just been such a fun hour. And thanks to everybody for joining us. And we're now...
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Stockholm Tech Meetup. We will do it again next month. Although stay tuned. I'll keep everyone updated on what the theme will be for next month. But this one will live in my memory for a long time. I am daydreaming intensely about getting over to the continent as soon as possible, and hope to connect with many of you on stage. And hopefully, Gabenga, man, could we please go to Nigeria? We'll start in Nigeria and do a tour.
But Tyler,
Yeah.
I took
Wait,
a
I
few
wanted to
Swedish
ask Tyler.
investors and startups, right, to
Yeah.
Abuja, if you remember, on behalf of Stockholm Tech Fest
That's
in
right.
2019.
Yeah, I remember.
We took a few Swedish companies. So what we need to do is we need to do a proper tour. And Ventures platform actually hosted us in Abuja. So we need to do a proper tour of that. Take a couple of Swedish investors, Swedish startups, and take them to the continent and show them what's happening.
The continent, but you only mentioned Nigeria. I'm gonna fight you on this.
No, we're doing a tour, and I'm trying
I
to
said
get
the continent.
Mabwana to lead a whole tour so we can hit everywhere.
Let's make
Yeah,
this happen. Let's make it
yeah,
happen.
I'm fine to and I'd love to do a proper tour. Let's hit as many places as possible the time allows. But one thing I will request is that the end of tour partying and chillaxing, Tanzania will win for sure, because we have
Dude, forget
and
it. Forget
Zanzibar.
it.
It's the
South
reason I
Africa
live
for
here, and I
sure.
have the energy to go out there and go, jump into Nigeria, Ethiopia, wherever I need to go. The chaos of Lagos, because I live in a very beautiful, chill country, and particularly recently with our new president, things are looking up. But if we can end the tour here, and I'm happy to entertain and make sure everyone has a good time.
Before we go, I did want to ask both Tyler, Cal, and Cheryl. I know you're all investors. Who would you have given flowers to today?
I said when they all three finished, my first comment was, "Man, I'm having a hard time picking between the three, to be honest." And for the reasons that Gabenga mentioned, like if you live in Scandinavia, you know how huge that CD Care model is of being the data based lender, doing the real time, buy now, pay later. And that model is now spreading globally. And I think Africa more than anywhere is an interesting place to try that model and to do that model right now, because as you mentioned, the credit worthiness is, plays a significant role there in developing, a credit worthiness. And Gabenga, you broke some news with that Electrolux story, man. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I said about Dr. Willetta, I mean that she's doing stuff that American could benefit from on the continent. And I loved that part, because this is often the case where you have Africa's able to do the traditional leapfrogging, because they're jumping technology layers, and they could even surpass America in some sense within the healthcare with innovations like hers. And then pick me up, like I said, Kareem in the Middle East. I had friends who were the investors there, and I think that's just from an investor standpoint, kind of a no-brainer. I very low downside, tons of upside. So I think it really depends, to answer your question, Liz, on your risk profile. Like if you focus on things that are more market based, or if you're focusing on things that are more team based, or if you're focusing on things that are more founder based, it's like you could go all three different ways on this easily.
Cal?
Toby, I'll give him the flowers. I understand. You have, for me, I have to understand the space and have some experience in it, and just understand it. So I understand consumer a bit more than the other one. Yeah, Michael's is also very good. So very close between the two of them. I don't understand healthcare as much, and it's quite complicated for me to understand in Ethiopia. But all three pitches were just absolutely brilliant, and so inspired by all of you. So inspired. But my flowers would go to Toby.
For me, I've only been to South Africa for the African continent, and I do know that transportation is definitely important. I would definitely say if you can transform Michael into a super app like Grab, and you can get Grab on board, I'll definitely go for Michael. Pick me up.
Bada boom. There we do. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this very special version of the Stockholm Tech Meetup done here in Clubhouse. We'll do it again next month, where I hope you can join us. And now we're going to turn